Hello, humans. Coming to you live from the greatest city in all the world, Gary, Indiana. And I just wanted to wish you all a happy Black History Month. Hopefully you've been listening to me, Jonathan Booz, and Lloyd Fisher on WLTH every Monday between 6 and 8. This whole month we've been doing nothing but covering great Black revolutionary figures, whether it's Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Zumbi dos Palmares, Vicente Guerrero, Booker T. Washington, Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, etc. And we're going to continue doing that. I'm definitely going to leave a link so you can listen to the show online for all of y'all who aren't in Gary with us. This is The Chemist, and this is the Chemical Reaction. Today about a sports story that's much bigger than a sports story, especially here in Black History Month. This is an America story, essentially. This is a diaspora story. The great basketball player, Draymond Green, my favorite player right now, said on his podcast that New York Knicks owner, Jim Dolan, has a slave owner's mentality in dealing with New York Knicks legend Charles Oakley, who Dolan had escorted violently from his building last week for being critical of the team, and who had essentially been critical of the team in the past. Since that point, James Dolan has slandered Charles Oakley as an alcoholic and a rageaholic and said he needs help, and has really done himself no favors. He's a pretty terrible owner in everything he's done with the Knicks. The entire city of New York hates him. And so basically the public has sided with Charles Oakley pretty much universally. They were cheering for him and chanting for him even when he wasn't there. In the subsequent games after Oakley was physically dismissed by Madison Square Garden security. Now, since Draymond Green made these comments on his podcast, it's been his podcast is called Dre Day, which I love as well. I haven't listened to it, but I love that it's called Dre Day. Since he's made these comments, there's been a swift backlash. A swift backlash against Mr. Green, who's known for being outspoken, who's known for speaking his mind about all kinds of issues, which is big reason why he's my favorite player in the NBA right now. And I was watching First Take just a few hours ago. And basically all three of the commentators, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, and especially Will Cain, basically all poo-pooed what Draymond Green was saying. Especially Will Cain, who called his comments dumb and said that they were trivializing real slavery. And I think that there's this tendency that people have, particularly white Americans, to get really defensive whenever the term slavery is brought up. Whenever slavery is brought up, white people get really, really defensive. And a lot of it is because they don't understand what slavery was. You know, Will Cain's argument was that Jim Dolan is a billionaire and Charles Oakley's a millionaire. And since Jim Dolan's paying for all this for these players that he can't have a slave mentality. Well, all you have to do is look in American history and see that that's not necessarily the truth. The biggest athletes in this country for most of the 19th century were black horse jockeys. Yes, black people dominated horse racing. And guess what? A lot of them were slaves. These guys were being paraded all over the world. These guys lived well, while at the same time being slaves. People like Anson Williamson. People like Anson Williamson, who was one of the first great, Ansel Williamson, I'm sorry. One of the first great black horse jockeys. 13 of the first 15 Kentucky Derby winners were black. You know, this was in a post-slavery period where black people still didn't have any rights, basically. So that's not true. Just merely the fact that Charles Oakley and Draymond Green and these players are rewarded well for their sports prowess does not mean that they can't be slaves and that they can't be owned by people who have a slave mentality. History says that that's just not the truth. That's not the case. American history says that. Also, in the NBA, there's a history. Donald Sterling. Just 2 years ago, Donald Sterling is a man who many people would say has a slave owner's mentality, was secretly audio taped by his girlfriend, V. Stiviano, talking about his black athletes as if they were chattel. Now, this is a guy who is a billionaire himself, who paid his athletes millions of dollars. And he said things like, I give them houses and cars. I give them this. I do that. He was speaking about his millionaire athletes as if they are nothing without him, while at the same time telling his girlfriend, who was mixed, that black people are the enemy. And that she shouldn't associate with black people. You don't think that's a slave owner's mentality? And then he went on and attacked Magic Johnson, who is the prominent black businessman in all of sports. I guess to put him in his place. You wouldn't say that's a slave owner's mentality? Donald Sterling had lost the largest racial discrimination case in American history, even before that incident. This is a man who used to send his wife to his properties, his apartment buildings, disguised as a health inspector, so that they could find excuses to throw blacks and Latinos out of their buildings. This is a man who was an NBA owner up until 2 years ago. Maybe 3 years ago, I'm sorry. Something in that range. Don't tell me that Donald Sterling wasn't at owners' meetings with all the other 30 owners, or 31 owners, however many owners there are, speaking the same type of crap with those owners, maybe other than Michael Jordan, who was the only black guy in the room, speaking that way to them. Don't tell me that Donald Sterling was all by himself in every meeting that the owners had. Jim Dolan was at those same meetings that Donald Sterling was in. So I'm pretty sure that there are other owners who have and share maybe some of the same beliefs that Donald Sterling had. There were other owners who defended Donald Sterling after Donald Sterling was caught with those comments. So let's not sit here and play naive here, that we don't understand what a slave owner's mentality in sports looks like. We just had one. Also, capitalism itself lends itself to megalomaniacal control freaks who believe that they should be able to control everything their employees do. Why do you think there's so many illegal immigrants here in America? Who do you think is hiring them? Why do you think they like hiring them so much? Why do you think they like hiring them over black Americans and over poor and working class white Americans? Because we know our rights. We won't let them treat us as slaves. But somebody from Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico might. These same capitalists use their workers, berate them, abuse them physically, mentally, sexually often, because they know that essentially they're slaves. So capitalism itself lends itself to a owner-servant type relationship. And finally, it doesn't have to be cross-racial for it to be a slave owner's mentality. There are plenty of pimps out there who pimp women. Now, some of these women have nice purses, drive nice cars, have nice clothes. Some of them, you probably would see them and never even know they were prostitutes at all, but they have pimps. And they have a slave owner type relationship as well. A white man could pimp a white woman. A black man could pimp a black woman. It doesn't have to be cross-racial for it to be a slave owner's mentality. I think that many whites and many of the blacks who love them are far too quick to dismiss somebody like Draymond Green's comments because they're defensive and they don't want to get into slavery and they don't want to get into the ugly horrors of that. But I think we have to be much more nuanced about understanding what slavery is. That slavery doesn't mean that you don't have nice things. Slavery doesn't mean that you can't be famous. Slavery doesn't mean that you can't be an entertainer and entertain millions of people. Some of the first entertainers were slaves. We have to understand that the NBA itself has had people with a slave mentality running their teams up until very recently. We have to understand that capitalism itself oftentimes reduces employees to slave status. And we have to understand that just because somebody says slavery, it doesn't inherently mean racist. And it doesn't inherently mean that a black person is being held down by the white man. Sometimes white people hold each other down. Sometimes black people hold each other down. Hispanics, Asians hold each other down. So while you may not necessarily agree with Draymond Green on this particular issue, maybe James Dolan doesn't have a slave owner's mentality. Maybe he does. That's up to you to decide whether he does. But please understand that Draymond Green ain't off on another planet somewhere. He is not. He is not off the reservation, as the saying goes. He is not that. He may not necessarily be 100% right, but he ain't 100% wrong either. And until America can grapple with what slavery is, we'll never get over this class war that's been going on for 400, 500 years in this country. And with that, I say, God bless the working class. God bless organized labor. Death to this corporate state and all the sellouts that help to maintain it. I am the chemist. This was the Chemical Reaction, and I'm out.